open up the field and then hire somebody
They don't
or
have the
people
key.
close?
No, they're not gonna have a key. We talked about in our meeting that we had on Tuesday, a 72-hour notice. I need some kind of notice, so that staff can get there and make sure everything's ready, and we need some kind of notice. A Sunday afternoon is a great thing for you, but my staff doesn't normally work on Sundays. So nobody in public works, I have 2 public works here, y'all work on Sundays? They're working on Sundays, something has busted or blown up.
Time and a half.
And so, they are on call, whereas Chaz has limited staff, he does not have on-call staff. So it's not as easy as to say, oh, 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, nice day, nobody's on the field, open up and play, because we have to have some kind of security. I've called the police, because somebody has broken into our pool, has poured paint in it, they have trashed their existing concession stand. I don't know what they were looking for, but they tore it up, so I have to secure these sites. And so it's not that I can just give everybody a key to these fields. And so it would have to be that staff, if we have somebody there that's paying us to be able to do so, we will, if the council do, we'll work hard to accommodate that. But I just need to remind you, during budget time and overtime, Saturday afternoon is something that we need to schedule and not just call it because it's free.
Okay, I know that we can probably go on this for quite a while to come, but the main thing is for tonight, that we approve a general idea of the 3 things that we have and tweak the contract with the agreement of the council that you can work with Mrs. Turner and Mrs. Rodriguez on the final contract that will be presented probably in 2 weeks.
Yes,
But, so what I would ask the council is for a motion to approve those stipulations, and I think those were the ladies that, those were what the meeting Tuesday night came out with. So, council, or any other citizens' comments before I'll entertain a motion on this? Okay, I have the floor open for a motion.
I'll make a motion, and please correct me if I am not saying this correctly. I make a motion to approve the 3 stipulations for the Floresville Little League Youth Sports Agreement. Ms. Rodriguez, do I need to name the stipulations?
Yes, please.
Stipulations are a fee of $7,500 to be paid in 3 installment payments for 1-year contract, with the start date for practice starting Monday, February the 18th, 2019.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Mrs. Martinez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? 3 to 1. Thank you very much, and I know y'all will be in contact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with the season.
Thank you.
We're going to go back on the agenda to item 2A. One that keeps coming back, but I hope we have some updates on Spectrum.
Your Honor, I was gonna call you Your Honor. Honorable Mayor, basically, Mr. King and I have been playing phone tag. Last email I received from him was actually just yesterday, where he indicated he is reviewing the documentation. I'm hoping that we will be able to meet, hopefully within the next month or so. I will call you personally, Mayor, as soon as I speak to him personally, instead of through email.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Item 2B, the USDA water projects update. I know we had M&S here just a couple of weeks ago, and they come back, and I know our council at that time had a lot of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about the situation that is going on right now with the water meters.
Thank you, thank you for the opportunity. First off, I could just update you all on the progress of, I think the last time I was here, there was some talk about the contractor having stopped work and various things because of the shutdown of the government and not being able to be paid. That's been taken care of, so we're working to get the contractor back in town to finish up the job. So just to get that little bit out of the way. I don't have a big presentation for you all. I can answer questions for you tonight on anything to follow up. I think Mrs. Turner has included in your council packets, some email, a couple emails and a letter from M&S kind of outlining some steps that we feel would help kind of get all of us through this issue with the meter replacements. And if you have any questions about those, that correspondence, I'm happy to help.
Okay, yes, Mrs. Kenji?
Okay, on page, I guess it's on page 1, on the last paragraph, and it says prior to installation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that a fact, or is that just you, is what you believe?
No, it's a fact. If the check valve wasn't in place, then water would be free to move back and forth from customer side into the distribution system. And not saying that it happened all the time, but if something was pushing on the customer side, i.e. pressure from the water heater, for instance, it has to go somewhere, and that's its easiest outlet, would be back into the distribution system.
So we were being contaminated, I mean.
Not necessarily. That is absolute worst case, would be some contamination. Normally, the water from the heater, it's the same water that came into the residence or business or whatever. Unless there is a separate cross connection that the city doesn't know about, or something to that effect. It's just the same water coming in and out. But the state does require that the city protect the system by preventing that from happening. If there is some source of contamination on the customer side, the state requires some protection to prevent any potentially contaminated water getting back. And I'm not here to say that there's contamination going on, because that hasn't happened. I mean, we sample the water all the time, and we have good water. But it's just the potential for it is out there.
When you were here a couple of weeks ago, you were discussing that there was, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in the area of 30 customers that had called and complained about problems, damages.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there an update on that, and how are we handling that?
I have an update on that, Mayor, if I may. Please excuse my seat. But we've spoken to USDA, because it's one of the things we wanted to talk about, and Stephanie always are working very hard on the meters. And so what we determined, that we notified our insurance company, TML, our insurance company for risk, and let them know of their position, and we've shared them this information. And so I can't use any USDA money on the front side or the resident side of the meter. And so to say that we can recoup some costs or some loss in reference to that. However, the USDA, Betty Soto came out to meet with me and the engineer, and I think she met with the attorney as well, talked about that there is an account, because it's all about money. I mean, the city can't afford to fix everybody's pipes, okay? And I can't use USDA money to do that. But there is fund for those who are low income and cannot do that, that there's a program that we're able to do that. Helen Martinez has that information, and she's going to go back and contact on them. She hasn't been in the office this week. She was selected for jury duty, but when she returns next week, she'll be notifying those who have complained to the city that there is an application to help people with this situation, and USDA was very enough to say that they sponsor them, and that would be to give people assistance to take care of it if they had some issues. But basically, it's old technology that met new technology. We cannot fix everyone's pipe. We cannot afford it. If they want to do insurance claim, we have notified TML that there may be some. People may file, and it's a case-by-case scenario. But we have actually tried to find some funding, because to tell somebody, too bad, it's not a city's fault, is not an answer that I know the council wants to hear. And so we found an agency that can help and assist those who are willing to fill out the forms to apply for this. Some people may say it's not worth the $395. Somebody said this is really going to help us.
What is the percentage of completion? We're pretty close to it, huh?
Out of, I think there's, including residential, commercial meters altogether, there's about 2,600 and change, and I think we've put in around 22? 22. I was thinking 24, but okay, to 2,200.
And we have, so at the residential ones, we have, how many left, Stefano? Residential?
We have about 300 left.
300 left in residential, and then we'll start the big part. They've done some commercial ones. The big ones they haven't done, the schools, the hospitals, because we want to make sure those are much bigger meters, so they take a little more time. And then, I don't know about you, but I don't want Whataburger to be out of water for too long, and so we need to schedule some of those things for Whataburger and things such as that. So the bigger ones we haven't done commercially, some of the small ones that they've done, and if we hadn't had the shutdown for a whole month, and hopefully tomorrow we won't have the shutdown tomorrow, they should be finished by the end of March. The delay of 1 month, they were originally scheduled to be done at the end of February, but this long delay actually did that. But I want to say, in case somebody's videotaping me, the USDA has agreed there was a late fee because we couldn't pay. It was a late fee. The attorney helped us to negotiate, and the USDA is actually paying out of the contingency the late fee because we weren't able to pay. And we've set that up and scheduled that. So they understand it caused some discomfort, but we were working there. But I wanted to provide you with the letters and the emails and the different options that we provided with the attorney. The attorney has those, as well as our insurance company, in case they have a landslide plan, claims.
Like, the schools, are y'all gonna do it during their spring break? Is that when it's scheduled?
We're gonna do it after school hours.
Oh, I thought it was during spring break.
No, ma'am, we should.
If it works out that way, that'd be incredible.
Spring break is, that's
Right.
not for a long time, it's
It's
like
more
April.
second week of
Oh,
March.
it's the second week of March.
Yes.
Yeah.
So y'all would be finished?
Yeah, so we're
By
calling,
then, okay.
it's not Mr. Charles, that's the way you saw it's called for school, to do it, we're gonna do it after hours. School starts too early for us to do it before hours, they start at 7 o'clock, the school doesn't, but they'll start after hours.
Mrs. McKee?
So, as I asked you last meeting, was there ever a solution that you knew of to prevent this?
There is a solution, and it would involve going door to door in the city and making essentially taking a survey of the customers' plumbing in the house, which would come at great expense to the city for that to happen. Now, I think we outlined in the emails, in one of the emails, that, if there's 300 or so meters remaining, maybe it's worth taking the time for those 300 to go ahead of the installer and basically take a survey of what is going on in the house. We're looking for, we would be looking for very specific things, essentially with the water heaters themselves and the age and the presence of the pressure relief valve and the thermal expansion tank. Those would be very easy to keep to identify. And if the house did not have that in place, I think we outlined it here, there would have to be some sort of a defined time frame to either have some repairs done ahead of time, which would theoretically be less expensive than after the fact, or I forget the other option, if that didn't happen.
The problem about doing anything, allowing, staff is trying not to enter the residence. Unless there's something that's wrong with
I understand that.
we don't
Right.
go into it, so then you're taking on the additional liability.
And personally, I'm not a plumber. I mean, I say I know to look at it, but I would not be qualified to go into the house either and make those calls either. I mean, you have to be, you have to contract with a plumber to do that. It would probably be more cost effective to go that route anyway, to be honest with you.
But speaking about a plumber, because what you stated last time, you said that there should have been a plumber on site, correct?
The contractor has a plumber,
Excuse me,
is required to have a plumber on site.
there wasn't.
We are learning this, and that plumber's job was to essentially certify en masse that the meters were installed correctly, not that there was an issue in the house or something like that. He's there to certify that the meter was connected properly to the main and to the service line, and that what was supposed to be installed was installed, and it wasn't leaking and that sort of thing. That his responsibility did not carry into the house.
I understand that.
Yeah. So yes and no, there's a plumber there, but his charge wasn't to do, I think, what you're maybe thinking that he should.
Well, I think that's what I understood from you last time, that there should have been a plumber on site.
Right, but even if there was a plumber on site, it wasn't his responsibility to go to the house and check it out.
I understand all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we currently still getting complaints about problems as we're putting in the new meters on the?
It has slowed down, but in all fairness, it has not, they haven't been putting in because
It hasn't been put in, so.
they haven't installed it. So there's nothing new, but they have been installing. And so we will watch it carefully. Stefano has been assigned to follow. He literally is with the install group. At one team, they had 2 teams at one time, but they had 3. You can set the mic, Stefano, it's okay. Come on.
I'm sorry?
Come on.
No, I was just asking Stefano, just trying to confirm when we stopped installing meters.
But
Is
we
that-
stopped right around Christmas.
Yeah, I thought it was the 21st.
Yes, right around Christmas we stopped, and we haven't installed any since. So in all fairness, we haven't received any new ones since Christmas time, but we haven't installed any new meters since Christmas time either. They're about to get started and going back. Stefano is going with them. He has been going with them even before, so we are aware so that we can have somebody on site so we can follow. He's been following for some time now. I think it was even before Thanksgiving he's been going. At one time, they had 2 crews, one crew that was hanging the door and another crew that was installing. And he's been with the install group, following the way to do that. I think Stefano's learned one about meters, and so have I since that time, because we're going to inherit these. And so that is our point of attention, that we're going to be having a conference call and a meeting before they get started up. We're going to take it slow, and we're going to identify. We put a caution, Wilson County News has run a newspaper article to let people know that there's an issue, so we can let people know, and hopefully we'll go forward from that.
When are we starting up again, did you say?
We don't know yet.
They got the check, ACS, they got it. Yeah, you didn't sign it because we had to transfer it right to their bank, it was due on February 1. And then we have negotiated, we got approval from the USDA to pay this late fee penalty, and we received the money from the USDA yesterday. And so we're going to do the ACH over to them to wire, and when I'm saying ACH, I'm sorry, wire the money to them. Normally we do checks. Mary, I know you've signed those $100,000 checks, but in this case, because we're timely and I need them to get started, we are wiring the money. And so they approved it, we received it yesterday. Federal government will be closed for the holiday, but we don't know if they'll be closed for it, but we have the funds. So we're hoping to schedule a conference call and get started next week.
Yeah, because the contractor needs to understand that since they've been paid and we're all basically all square with them, they're still under contract to finish the work. And they can't just sit on their hands and do nothing, because at some point they're gonna be facing, penalty essentially for not performing the contract. So we have to push. We want them to get done. There's no doubt about that. So it's time, now that they're paid up, it's time for us to push on and get back to work.
Yeah, and they were just paid on the first. Now they have to assemble a team, because the team that they had here installing, it's no longer together. So they have to assemble another team together. So she's rallying the troops, so to speak, and assembling a team. So she can't probably tell us when she's ready to start until she has a team that they can, because they literally are not from here. The company's located in Longview, and so that's where they're based out of. And typically, the Holiday Express is where they stay when they're here. So she has to grab a team, and then they have to be moved here.
Well, hopefully we won't have any problems. No phone calls for us.
Right, and again, there's things that we can consider doing on the remaining meters to try to alleviate
Well,
any new issues.
maybe if you have a solution, we'd like to hear.
I'm thinking maybe putting the meters out earlier, and just trying to touch base with the people a little bit earlier now that we have a little bit of time to do it.
Right. And
But I know you're trying, I know you're trying, and you have been
Right.
very instrumental in getting this done.
And again,
Seen you.
part of the solution is potentially going door to door on the remaining meter, on the remaining residences.
And let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 3B. Yes, 3B. Consideration and action to accept the resignation of FEPC and 4A Corporation Board member Billy Aguirre.
I make a motion to accept.
Well, hold on, I'd like to.
I have no comments other than say that Mr. Herrera did submit his resignation. We will be missing him on the 4A and the 4B. As a matter of record, we need to accept his resignation. Also, we will be advertising again in Wilson County News to replace those vacancies, as well as we still have some on the Board of Appeal, Board of Adjustments we need to fill. So we'll put it out on Facebook and again, in Wilson County News, advertising again for any applicants. We'll bring up those that you've had before and see if people are still interested, if you have anybody submit the same application, and that we'll be able to do that, and hopefully it'll be on the next agenda for approval.
And just to reiterate, it'd be for 2 different applications if they'd like to, because it's one for 4A and one for 4B.
You can actually put all the ones that are interested on the same one, we'll put it in the same one, but yes, it is 2 different applications. 4A, 4B, and please don't forget the Board of Adjustments.
All right, I have a motion on the floor to accept the resignation. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Jimenez. All of those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to item 3C, consideration action to review and approve subdividing, 1.799 acres of 1.834 acres on B Street for Judy Milton, lot 44 and 45.
Yes, ma'am. And so you have in your packet the planning and zoning committee packet that they would have had. They had a meeting on February 6th to review this project. Planning and zoning is recommending for your approval to divide one of the parcels. If you look at the site plan, has a house on it, and the other parcel is where they plan on building. If you notice, it does have 2 different driveways, so they'll have driveway and access to it. So the one that's closest to B Street has a property on it currently. The one in the far back does not. And they plan to do that, subdivide it. Our engineer has reviewed it, engineer Intrepid has reviewed it and approved, and we make recommendation to approve. If you so do approve, there is a plat that we need you to sign tonight before you leave.
Ms. Turner, what are they gonna build, and did you say,
A house, they're gonna build another house.
and where is the entrance gonna be?
If you notice the 2 different driveways, so the one driveway has one driveway and the other one, there's 2 separate entranceways, so you can get into the property. Because we want to make sure they're not landlocked.
I know it made it to the Wilson County News, so some of us were able to read a little bit up on it.
Yes, it did make it. I was like, wow, that was nice. I had the picture of your community development director, who cannot be here today. She's still recovering from surgery. But I wanted to provide you with the entire packet that the planning and zoning would have had, as well as a recommendation from your engineer, if you had any questions, but it is approved, and we do that prior to coming to you. So your planning and zoning does recommend a recommendation.
And how big is that B lot, how big is it gonna be? Because I can't read it, it's too small.
Okay, so they're taking this lot and they divide it into 2 separate acres. So one of them will be 1.799, the other will be 1.834 on B Street. So there's one fat lot that they divided into 2. So if you go to the page that's right after Intrepid's letter, if you look at that,
Yeah, I
that's
saw
right
it.
after Intrepid's letter, that's how it sits today. It's one continuous lot. When they subdivided the lot, you go all the way to the last page of the packet, it shows the 2 different lots once it's been subdivided. So then it becomes lot 44 and 45.
Council, do y'all need a few minutes to look that over? Any citizens' comments pertaining to this?
I'm gonna go ahead and move to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to accept the subdividing of 1.779 acres and 1.834 acres on B Street. Do I have a second? I second. Seconded by Mrs. Martinez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, 4-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to item D, consideration action to approve resolution 2019-002, authorizing the submission of an application for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Recreational Trail Grant Program.
Thank you. We have actually Cindy Metro here. Wait, Cindy. Okay. On February 1st, and please forgive me, I'm sorry, the bug that was going around, I wasn't here last week, last meeting, but it was due on February 1st. And so Cindy was nice enough to call them and explain that we were trying to get it done, but the weather got a hold of me, and apparently the bugs going around, a lot of people were sick as well. So we submitted the, what you have behind your packet, we submitted the plan. This is a preliminary site plan, and we permitted the budget, but they won't fully consider our application unless you give me permission to actually apply. But I wanted to not be late, and so what we're asking tonight is to be able to put it in, submit it. We made the deadline, but to make it complete, we need to do so by the end of this month. They will make an announcement sometime in May of 2019. This one, I don't want you to get confused. No, this one is for a nature park. They want to be more nature, and it's going to be at the River Park. I always call it the city park, or the pool park, but it's the River Park. Because they want more of a nature, nice, green, fuzzy type of environment. I am coming back to you in April to apply for the TxDOT grant that will be on our hike and bike trail. Okay, so this is one for the one at River Park so that we can do a nature walking.
I'm gonna be asking on all of them, is there matching funds that's the city?
The last item says the grant application total is $132,600. That is the maximum with matching funds of $35,000.
And where would this money come from?
No, actually, I've been looking for that. I knew you were asking that question for some reason. Okay, so the city of Floresville, actually, they don't need the money right away, so that's not it. But what we have to do so, we can use the dollar funds on the water bill that we have right now. And the purpose, if you read it, was for a matching for a grant for a park. We get approximately $36,000 to $38,000 a year for that project, and this will be more than enough to cover your match. I was going to ask for EDC on this one. I gave him a pass. So that's when we would earmark those funds. We probably use this for the next budget, but typically we haven't used those funds for anything, so it's been building. So that's where we would get the money.
Yes,
How much funds are in that fund?
Councilman, not a fair question. I don't have that in front of me. But typically we budget, because it's a monthly thing that builds. $1 every month. And so, but historically we received $38,000. And so we've collected 100%. So I anticipate that we get another $38,000. I haven't spent all the funds there, but I can make sure I get to the council at the next meeting what's in that account as we speak today. If my comptroller was here, she could tell you, but I don't want to take a risk.
any other questions from the council? Any citizens' comments pertaining? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 2019-002.
I move to approve resolution 2019-002.
I have a motion on the floor by Mrs. Cantu. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Jimenez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 4-0, thank you. All right, moving on to item E, consideration and action to approve resolution 2019-003 on the City of Floresville investment policy.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. This was on your agenda at the last meeting. The City Council presented it. The attorney has had a chance to review that. She has prepared a resolution, and you have that before you, and I'll leave it over to the city attorney.
I would recommend approval. It is in keeping with the government covenant that's needed. It's all outlined and it is correct.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions or concerns? I know, I think a lot of us went over it for the last meeting. Any citizens' comments? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to accept resolution 2019-003.
Make a motion, we approve resolution number 2019-003.
I have a motion on the floor by Mrs. Martinez. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Cantu. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Moving on to item F.
Okay, item F. Okay, so now we're moving into our CDBG zone. Okay, so the City of Floresville has applied and received CDBG before. However, in this case, what we're talking about right now is a new application for 2019-2020. As we anticipate applying for the grant, they are making, is a requirement for us to do a procurement of an engineering firm. And so it's usually staff will review it, so I had 2 staff members, myself and Randy decided, and then we have an elected official to review, and Councilman Jimenez was nice enough to review that. In your packet that you see that we have 3 engineering firms, TRC Engineering, M&S Engineering, and Intrepid Engineering. According to the ranking in the files that we did, staff and the elected official are recommending TRC Engineering to do our project. Now, this project could be a water or sewer, depending on what they're funding. It only comes every 3 years, is that right? Every 2 years. So we received one, which you're going to be passing some